This is episode number 48 of the Silver Track Extra.
Thanks for tuning in to the Silver Track Extra, your source for the best tips, tricks, and how-tos to dominate the security industry, helping you improve your business, win more contracts, and crush your competition. Here are your hosts, Chris Anderson and Johnny Page.
What's up, Silver Track Nation? This is Johnny Page, along with my partner in crime, Chris Anderson. We're here on episode number 48 of the Silver Track Extra, where we're going to talk about questions that every security company should be asking their customers. Chris, these are going to be some tools that our account managers and our customers can really be using to help engage their customers, learning more about their clients, and really helping improve their businesses. So why don't you kick us off on the first question that and we're going to cover many today, but what are one of the questions that our customers should be asking, or security companies in general should be asking their customers on a regular basis?
Yeah, like what could our company do to serve you better, Johnny? Is that what you're talking about?
That seems to be one of the most common, and if that's the question you're asking on a regular basis, you're going to get a C. You're going to C because you ask it. At least you're asking, but you get a C and not an A because really we could do a lot better than that, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's a question that should be asked right at the beginning of the contract, right? You should already know what your clients want and how you can serve them better, right? Because that's the last thing you want to do is after the contract's closed and you're working. So tell me, what can I do to serve you better, right? So
yeah, I mean, to me, that sounds like you walk up to your wife and you're like, so what do you want me to do?
Yeah, how do I become a better husband? How can I become a better husband? Well, haven't you read the manual, right? Yeah, you're from Venus and I'm from Mars or whatever. Haven't you seen that one? So it goes back to our customers, John. You got to know your customers. How could you have that? What can I do to service you? Well, don't you know? How long have you been doing this? How long have you been providing security services? How long have you been a security manager, right? How many other clients like me do you have? Have you ever experienced any problems with them? What are their issues, right? So the idea is when we're sitting in front of the customers and you're asking them that question is, you know what? Hey, listen, how about this? Hey, Betty, let's just say it's Betty, right? Hey, Betty, I don't know if you know this, but I know that some of the times you have to go do patio violations, right? You know, these are at apartment complexes where you have to walk the community, right, for blankets and brooms and, you know, you got the barbecues that are extending over, right? And those are safety and liability hazards. And I know you stay pretty busy. So you know what I did? I put a little task notification together in the system. I'm having the guard every Friday pull those reports for you. You can see it under this, and I'm going to have it automatically system generate an email to you, and it'll be in your folder. Would that be something to be beneficial to you? And you know what she's going to say? Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be terrific. And you say, great. Well, we won't overload you, but, you know, it'll be there. So it's finding out what your customers' needs are right there. You know, that's how you better serve them. You know?
Yeah, one thing, I guess a better way to go about this, of course, you need to know ahead of time, but a cool question that I like to ask that also helps build rapport with the individual that you're speaking with is to ask them to tell you about their favorite service experience that they've had, whether it was in a business or even as a consumer, because their response is going to tell you a lot about what their ideal customer service relationship is going to look like. And then we can respond based on that. We can implement that into our approach with this customer. Just taking that one extra step, coming up with a little bit more creative question, gets us a little bit more creative answer and something that we can actually work with rather than what can my company do to serve you better. That's most of the time going to get everything's okay because
everything's fine, right? Yeah. Everything's fine.
Yeah, because they're busy, right? Like you're probably calling them at a difficult time. We need to make sure we're timing our questions right. But if we don't ask an engaging question, we're not really going to get an engaging answer. So need to be a little bit more creative. That's a really cool one. Again, one more time, just tell me about your favorite service experience that you've had, whether it was in business or even as a consumer. So just an example of a time that a company went above and beyond your expectations. That question can really tell us a lot.
Well, with my customers, I think going beyond is really finding out what the customer's needs are in the beginning, like I mentioned to you before, and then setting the time right with that customer. Everybody's ever told me that I've ever had a really great experience is the fact that, you know what, nobody is calling me I don't have anybody complaining. I'm able to get my work done on time, and your guard shows up. And that's in a nutshell, John, has been a client that's been really, really happy when I had my guard business. That was a service to them that they absolutely loved. I love getting those phone calls and ask them, "Hello, how are you? How was everything going?" And they say, "You know what, Chris, things are running beautifully," right?
Yeah,
because
it's rewarding.
It was rewarding.
Work hard, you put in the time, and you get that response. It's so motivating to continue doing it. I love it. Like, I was on a training call the other day, and as we were just kind of poking around, we were waiting for something to load or for her to log in, and she just said, "You know what? I just love SilverTrak. This is so awesome." And that just motivates us even more to continue on. That's the kind of response you want to be getting from your clients. Well, SilverTrak Nation, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors over at Paperless Proposal, who, by the way, will be at the As Is 2015 conference in Anaheim coming up on September 28th to October 1st. They're going to be in booth 2660. Be sure to check them out while you're there at the show. We are going to take a quick break, hear from Paperless Proposal, and then we'll jump straight back into our featured conversation.
If you own a security business, I want to recommend a tool that will give you a big competitive advantage and help you win more clients. This powerful tool is Paperless Proposal Software. Paperless Proposal Software helps you create impressive business proposals in minutes, and it allows you to easily track and manage all of your proposals. Give your business a big competitive advantage by using Paperless Proposal Software. Get a free demo at www.paperlessproposal.com/SilverTrak.
Another great question that I really enjoy asking is, what's one thing that none of your vendors do that you really wish they would? This kind of opens us up. It's an open-ended question, really allows them to take the opportunity to just, you could get any answer here. It could be something that applies directly to you, but again, it's going to give you some insight into where there are rooms for improvement in your service. And look, who's ever asked them that question before? Asking the question alone, whether you change your approach or not, lets the customer know that you're actually caring, you're engaged in what's going on with the business relationship that you have.
Yeah, well, I think you and I both know in the sales presentation, they're going to share that with you right away, right? They're going to tell you everything that the previous company did not do and why they were so unhappy, right? So it's going to pretty much right up front going to answer that. But the other question I would say is that if there's something that your client or the previous company was working, how was it working out for you? And they say, great. Well, what I would do is I wouldn't turn it negative. I'd say, okay, was that working out well? And they go, yeah, they did a pretty good job with it. And I would say, well, is there anything that we could do today to improve upon that? Let me show you some of the tools we have, some of the things that we're doing. From what I'm showing you today, do you see anything there that could improve, improve what we're doing right now, right? Whether it's for an example, checking the air conditioning units at the top of the roof. She says, well, they go up there on an hourly basis, and they're just to check and make sure that nobody's messed with the lock and that nobody has done anything with the air conditioning units. So I said, well, did you know that we can actually do an audio file that can record the noise of the air conditioning unit? And I said, because do they make a funny noise if something was to be cut on them? She said, yeah, if they're actually cut, they would steal the copper, and it would make a funny noise. So you bring up a good point. So if they could do an audio file and take a picture and timestamp it and send it to the maintenance guy, if they found something that was questionable, would that be beneficial to you? And she goes, oh, that's even better. That's tremendous. And that can come to me? And I said, sure, you and the maintenance team. So a small example, but something of taking it to the next level.
Yeah,
next step.
Very cool. Very cool. Another question that I really like to ask, and this may be something early on, but this is something that can evolve over time. I love to ask, and question I like to ask when I was in the security industry or in the field as well, was how can I measure success based on our relationship? Because they're going to measure. So when they kind of run through, hey, is the security team doing a good job? They may have different measuring sticks than you do, right? So I want to make sure that I'm measuring our success the same way that they are, right? So a great question, because that can always be changing. Depending on the needs and the fluidity of the scope of service, we can have a different answer 6 months down the road. So a cool one to ask, how can I make sure that we're doing a good job? How will I know if we're being successful in your eyes?
Right. And John, here's a good point. And listeners out there, here's a key point. When you're doing and you're asking your client these kind of questions, one thing you want to do is you want to keep a log, okay? Whether you have a CRM tool, customer management reporting tool, however you want to do it, and keep track of all the phone calls and the comments, right, that your clients, all the return comments, I should say. Whatever your client is telling you, you need to track that, because the last thing you want to do is call that client back and ask them the same question over again, right? It gets very frustrating for them. Or have somebody brand new that's in the office that wasn't aware that you made that call, calling them the next day to ask them the same questions that you're asking, right? Get very frustrating. And when you do stuff like that, a lot of times your clients, that's when you get the everything's fine, right? Because they know you're just calling up to do a follow-up call. You really don't care. It's just part of your little routine. You're doing a checkup, and that's all it is. So you got to be careful when you're asking clients for, does that make sense, John? When you're wanting
absolutely.
to serve, So be careful with that too.
Yeah. Well, here's a cool 1-2 punch into it. And so if you use this, make sure that you ask them in the right order. So one thing, first question, is there a recent example where we've not met your expectations? So we're starting with the negative first. Let them say, if there is an issue, we want to handle it, right? If there's not an issue, great. What we're going to ask next is, what's the most recent example of how we've exceeded your expectations? We're going to leave them with the positive taste in their mouth. We definitely don't want to emphasize the negative and then hop off the phone. But great way. Ask first, what's an example that we've not exceeded your expectations? Second, what's an example that we've recently exceeded your expectations? Another great way to get some insight into what's going on the property.
Yep. And then also I would tell you this. In the beginning of your contract, talk to your client and tell them that this is a routine, okay, that you call biweekly or monthly. What day would they like for you to call? All right, that's the first thing to do. Say, well, I stayed really busy. Fridays are my best days. And they say, okay, would it be okay if I followed up with you every 2 weeks? I'm only asking for, a couple, 3 minutes to ask you some standard questions. Just want to make sure that everything's going okay. And they will tell you, oh, yes, Fridays are the best. And yes, I will pick up your call. And I realize what you have to do. So if you're up front, you let them know that. So when you do call them, have your question prepared. And how was your day? And how's things going, right? It's open them up. They can expect your call. Plus, you want that feedback, right, John? You want that follow-up. So let them know what time you're going to call. Find out what your schedule is. So, it can be, they will pick up your call and respond,
Yeah, great point. Well, we've got all of these questions listed on our show notes page over at silvertracksoftware.com/48 for episode number 48 here. Before we leave, I want to encourage all of you to reach out. Let's book a meeting for the As Is conference coming up here on September 28th through the 1st. We're going to be in booth 2778. We'd love to meet you. If you will schedule a meeting ahead of time, we will have a special gift waiting there for you at the conference with your name on it. We'd love to meet you, shake hands, get to know you a little bit in person. Chris and I will be there and the whole SilverTrack team. So shoot us an email or leave us a comment on the show notes page. We'll be sure to get in touch with you, find a time that works best to meet up in our booth, take a look at the software, learn a little bit about your company, and it will always be a good time just getting to put a face to all of our listeners out there who've been so engaged. So thank you guys so much for just the feedback we've had here through 48 episodes. We're coming up on our milestone, Chris. It's almost hard to believe
48, John. Unbelievable.
It is, and the feedback has just been incredible. We track all that stuff, and I think this has grown now to a point I can confidently say this is bigger than I ever thought that it would be, and we're only 48 episodes in. So thank you guys. That's all you guys, all of our listeners out there who've been engaged, especially in the LinkedIn discussions and a lot of the groups. Thank you so much. Sincerely, it really means a lot to Chris and I.
Yeah, the comments have been great, you guys. We really appreciate it. Taking the time just to say hello, let us know you're out there. So much appreciated. It really is. And thanks for bringing that up, John. I didn't want to forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, until next time, I'm Johnny Page.
I'm Chris Anderson.
This was a SilverTrack Extra, and we'll talk to you soon.
This has been another episode of the SilverTrack Extra. For more insider information, visit silvertracksoftware.com/extra. Listen on the go by subscribing in iTunes. Want to hear your questions answered on the show? Visit silvertracksoftware.com/questions to submit your requests.